The air was cold that night, sharp enough to sting my skin through my thin sweatshirt. The car rumbled along the empty country road, headlights cutting through fields of weeds and silence. I sat in the back seat, hugging my knees, trying not to ask where we were going. Every time I opened my mouth, I was met with the same venom. "Shut up, Jenna," my dad barked, his hands gripping the wheel. "You'll see soon enough." My mom turned in the passenger seat, her lips curling into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You've been nothing but dead weight since the day you were born. Tonight, we're finally doing something about it. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." My younger sister Marissa leaned over from her side of the back seat, her glossy hair brushing my shoulder. She whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Trash pickup day came late this week." She giggled, and my parents laughed with her. My stomach knotted. I pressed my forehead against the cold window, watching the lights of the town disappear behind us until there was nothing but darkness and trees. I whispered, "Please don't do this." Mom's voice cut like glass. "Begging doesn't make garbage valuable. It just makes it noisier." The car slowed, tires crunching over gravel. My dad swung the wheel sharply, pulling us onto a dirt road that looked like it hadn't been driven in years. The headlights landed on a rotting barn, its wooden planks warped, roof caved in, the doors hanging by rusted hinges. Dad killed the engine. Silence swallowed us whole. The only sound was the ticking of the car cooling and the night bugs buzzing in the weeds. "Out," he ordered. I hesitated, frozen. Mom snapped, "Don't make me drag you, useless girl." Marissa smirked, leaning back in her seat like royalty. "Enjoy your new home, sis. Fits you better than ours." My legs shook as I climbed out. The night air bit at me. I looked around, no houses, no streetlights, just the silhouette of that barn and endless darkness pressing in on every side. Dad popped the trunk and tossed out a black trash bag. It hit the dirt with a dull thud. "Your stuff," he said. What little of it mattered. Mom's voice followed, sharp and final. "Useless things belong in the dump, and that's exactly where you are now." The words landed harder than the cold. I stood there in the dirt, hugging myself, staring at them through the darkness. For a moment, I thought maybe they'd changed their minds. Maybe this was another one of their sick jokes. But then they cheered. Literally cheered. My mom clapped her hands. My dad honked the horn like he was celebrating. Marissa leaned out the window, her voice dripping with laughter. "Bye, loser. Don't starve too fast." The car spun around, headlights blinding me for one last moment before disappearing down the dirt road. The red taillights faded into the distance until there was nothing left. I was alone. The silence was deafening. I stared at the barn, its broken doors yawning open like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. My hands trembled as I picked up the trash bag. Inside were a few old clothes, a cracked notebook, and a broken pair of sneakers I'd thrown out weeks ago. They hadn't even given me my real things. They didn't plan to come back. They didn't plan for me to survive. I pushed the barn doors open. The hinges screamed, the sound echoing into the hollow space. The air inside smelled of rot and dust. Moonlight spilled through cracks in the roof, illuminating piles of broken wood and rusted tools. Cobwebs stretched across the beams, and rats scurried into the shadows at the sound of my steps. I sank against the wall, hugging the trash bag like it was a lifeline. Tears blurred my vision, but I bit them back. Crying wouldn't help. Their words echoed in my head. Useless. Garbage. Dump. Every insult I'd swallowed for years suddenly pressed down all at once. But beneath the pain, something else stirred. A fire. They thought dumping me here would be the end. They thought they could throw me away like scraps and I'd vanish quietly into the dark. But I wasn't going to vanish. I wasn't going to die in a barn while they cheered. I sat there in the cold, staring through the broken roof at the midnight sky, and I made a promise. If they wanted to call me useless, I would make them choke on their own words. And when I was done, they'd wish they'd left me in the barn to rot. The first night in the barn stretched forever. Every creak in the beams above made me flinch. Every rustle in the hay sent my heart racing. Rats scurried in the shadows, and I hugged my knees to my chest, rocking myself for warmth. The smell of rot clung to my skin. At some point, I must have dozed off because I woke to faint sunlight leaking through the cracks in the roof. My throat was dry, my stomach aching. I stumbled outside, searching for anything: water, food, a sign of people. All I found was emptiness. I dragged myself back inside and sat down hard against the wall. My parents hadn't abandoned me by mistake. They had planned this. Mom's words from the night before repeated in my head like a chant. Useless things belong in the dump. By afternoon, hunger gnawed at me, but anger was stronger. I pulled out the cracked notebook from the trash bag, flipping through pages filled with old scribbles. Then, on a blank page, I began writing everything. Every insult, every bruise, every time they laughed while I cried. It wasn't just a list, it was fuel. Days blurred together. I scavenged near the barn, surviving on stale crumbs from the bag and rainwater I collected in an old rusted tin. My body grew weaker, but my mind grew sharper. For the first time in my life, I wasn't under their roof, under their rules. And in that silence, I realized something. They believed I was powerless because they had kept me powerless. But now, they had given me freedom. One night, I wandered down the dirt road, my legs shaking, until I reached the faint outline of town lights in the distance. I didn't go to them yet. I wasn't ready to crawl back, not until I had something stronger than desperation, but I stood there watching, reminding myself that the world was bigger than their control. I returned to the barn with a plan forming in my chest. The next week, I heard voices outside, laughter, engines. My stomach sank. I peeked through the barn door and froze. It was them, my parents, my sister. They had brought people, neighbors, friends, even some extended relatives. Trucks lined the dirt path. My mom stood in the headlights, her voice loud and mocking. "This is where we left her. Can you believe it? A dump for a dump." The crowd laughed. My dad clapped his hands, grinning. "She's probably long gone by now. Good riddance. She was nothing but dead weight." Marissa stepped forward, raising her phone to snap a picture of the barn. "Let's call it the garbage barn. Perfect family memory, huh?" The sound of their laughter filled the night, echoing into the rafters above me. My body shook, but not from fear this time, from rage. They hadn't just abandoned me, they had turned it into a performance, a spectacle, proof to everyone else that I wasn't worth keeping. I crouched in the shadows, biting my lip until I tasted blood. I wanted to run out, scream at them, tear their smug faces apart with my hands, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I listened. I memorized every word. When they finally left, their voices trailing off into the night, I sat back against the barn wall, trembling. My hands clutched the notebook tighter. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about making sure their cruelty didn't end with me, about showing everyone the truth that they were so eager to hide. My parents thought they had thrown me away. What they didn't realize was that I wasn't going to rot quietly in their dump. I was going to turn this barn into the place where their downfall began. And the next time they came laughing, they wouldn't leave laughing. Weeks passed. I learned to survive, scavenging just enough to keep going. My body was thinner, my clothes dirtier, but my mind had never been sharper. Every night I scribbled in the notebook, crafting my plan, replaying their words until the anger solidified into clarity. I waited until the next family gathering. I knew they couldn't resist coming back, bragging, laughing, dragging others out to see their dumped trash. And I was right. One cold Saturday night, I heard the familiar rumble of engines on the dirt road. I slipped into the shadows of the barn, heart steady. Through the cracks, I saw headlights spill across the broken boards. Voices carried, mocking and cruel. "There she is!" Dad boomed, waving his arm toward the barn like it was some kind of tourist stop. "Our family's dump." Mom smirked, her voice sharp as glass. "Useless things belong in the dump, always have, always will." Marissa laughed, pulling out her phone. "Let's film this one. Everyone online will love it." The crowd chuckled, neighbors, relatives, coworkers. They had turned my abandonment into entertainment. But this time, I wasn't cowering in the dark. I stepped forward, throwing the barn doors wide open. The rusty hinges screamed, and the laughter cut off in an instant. I stood there in the doorway, thin but unbroken, eyes locked on theirs. My voice carried steady and cold. "Go ahead, laugh again." Shock rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "She's still here?" Dad's face paled, then twisted into rage. "You should have stayed gone." Mom hissed, "You don't belong here." I lifted the notebook in my hand, thick with pages. "This says otherwise. Every word, every insult, every bruise, every lie. And tonight, everyone gets to hear what kind of people you really are." I turned, raising my phone, hitting play. My voice wasn't the only one they would hear. I had recorded them every time they came back to mock me. Their own voices spilled out into the night, amplified on a borrowed speaker. "Useless things belong in the dump? She's nothing but garbage. Good riddance." The crowd froze. Neighbors who had chuckled before now stared in horror. Relatives looked sick. Coworkers shifted uncomfortably. The cruel laughter from my parents and sister echoed out of the speaker, undeniable, inescapable. Mom lunged forward, hissing, "Turn that off!" But I stepped back, raising my voice. This is who they are, the people who raised me, the people who call themselves family. They dumped me in this barn like trash and paraded me around as a joke. Murmurs turned to shouts. "Monsters! How could you? She's your daughter." Dad shouted over them. "She's lying, twisting everything." But the recordings kept playing, cutting him off, his own voice condemning him. For the first time in my life, the weight shifted. The crowd wasn't laughing with them anymore. They were laughing at them, sneering, shaking their heads, backing away in disgust. Marissa's phone slipped from her hand, her face red with shame. Mom's eyes darted wildly, searching for someone to defend her, but no one did. I closed the notebook slowly, stepping closer. My voice dropped low, just for them. "You wanted me to be useless, but I'm the one who ended you." The silence that followed was heavier than the laughter had ever been. My parents stood there stripped bare, not powerful, not proud, but pathetic. I didn't stay to watch them crumble. I turned and walked down the dirt road toward the town lights, my steps steady, my chest lighter than it had ever been. Behind me, I could still hear their voices, not mocking this time, but begging, arguing, breaking apart. For years they had told me I belonged in the dump, but tonight it was their pride, their reputation, their carefully crafted lies that got thrown into the trash. And unlike me, they wouldn't be crawling out of it. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.